I did. I feel frustrated, you know, though the news, okay, of what's been happening in Portland and the reputation that the city has gotten. It's the smallest section of downtown where things got smashed and the rioting happened. You're getting a completely false narrative about what's been taking place in the area. To be honest with you, if you want the real story of what happened to Portland, a bunch of fucking aggravating street preachers basically decided that, because of the fact that this area has a reputation for being one of America's most progressive cities, that they were going to invade as a bunch of outsiders, push their way into the city, and start preaching loudly and harassing locals, basically, who have had to deal with an epidemic now of constant, nonstop preaching by organizations like the Health Shaking Street Preachers. I just wanted to offer some clarity at this point about myself and all this. It's no longer like I started, with the burning candles and everything on video stream and reading tarot cards and all that stuff out of a desire to rebel. As far as all that's concerned, I personally don't really believe anything or in any religion, but at the end of the day, like when it comes to all the stuff, all the spell work and everything that I've participated in and done with, and it was largely just out of a way of trying to express myself, which was, I need to go out there and commit a few more sins and never repent for them and deny the Holy Spirit and Jesus himself to ensure to make damn certain that if there is an eternal hell, that I am bound for it. And the primary reason is that Nishi was right. Really, read the signs that these Christians put up there. Look at who precisely they tell you is going to go and burn in hell and the whole thing, and that God condemns. And those are all my friends and all the people I want to spend eternity with. And as far as I'm concerned, a place and a community is defined by the people that go there and not the conditions that the administration sets down for the denizens of the place. It's the people that actually live there that make the community what it is. So I choose hell. I've got no qualms about it. It doesn't bother me. I mean, if you look at it, it's going to be like all the rock stars and rebels and all the philosophers and all the people that were, had some interesting perspectives and something actually interesting to say. And what is heaven going to be filled with but all the obedient sheep who gave up their freedom with open arms and bowed before a master? No gods, no masters is my mentality in a huge way. I bow to nothing other than myself. Fuck your god. And frankly, fuck his moral compass. In fact, honestly, like in this whole debate, it's been really interesting because they've been telling us a lot for a long time about how, you know, it is and how, how can you have any basis of morality other than, objective morality handed to you down by God? And it's like, you really want to have a moral debate about a God that literally told the Abraham's people that he could hold slaves as long as those slaves were not were not Israelites, that they were not part of the flock of Yahweh, that they came from neighboring countries rather than the country that they were in. This is a God that had no issue with slavery. And you might say that the Christians were on, were instrumental to the cause of abolition, but Christians were on both sides of that damn debate. So it's really there were Christians that were for slavery, and there were Christians that were against, and there was an internal debate that took place between various factions of Christendom at the time that this country was going through the abolition era against slavery. Like, you can't defend Christendom on the basis of the fact that they were instrumental in ending slavery, because they were also instrumental in it lasting as long as it actually did. Like, if it weren't for Christendom, it's likely that, like, slavery would have been ended a long time before it actually did get ended in America. So don't pretend to sit up. This is a God that, like, it should be offensive to your moral compass, unless you think that it's completely okay that women be stoned to death for the sheer act of infidelity. I mean, I know that adultery is frowned upon in my culture, and perhaps it should be, but, if you really think that the penalty ought to be being stoned to death, then I must adamantly beg to differ and raise to spare a woman's life over this crap, because it's not worth that. It's not worth that kind of punishment. You know. In fact, if anything, the woman that I now love would no longer be with us if we followed those. If we followed the values that have been laid down in the Old Testament. Your God has no right to claim moral authority over anything. The Bible is a disgusting book filled with moral degeneracy that has no place in either the world, really, and no moral authority, and really doesn't really belong in the books of how to be a good person. The Bible has no good advice about how to be a good person. It offers a lot of bad advice that we should ignore, in fact, in practice. Jesus may have said that the only way to go to heaven is to love your neighbor as yourself, and, to follow him and everything. But the rest of the goddamn book lays down a very nasty set of moral principles in it. It's funny too that this is a body of people that were commanded by the Ten Commandments to not murder, and yet they murder, murder, murder relentlessly, unless, somehow words don't have meaning and God has a different definition of murder than everybody else has. Your book doesn't belong on the shelf of what morality actually is. The Bible is a bad source of moral learning. Like, if we're gonna have a place to actually, get our moral lessons from, the Bible is one of the worst places to actually go to get moral lessons. And this is what disgusts me about all of it. I am not a Christian, and my community here in Oregon and Portland has been continually harassed by a group of outsiders that really carpetbagged into the Portland area. Although they aren't doing the kinds of action that would really lead to social climbing in any way, they've decided that, as a bunch of non-Oregonians, that they would come in from out of state into the area to micro-target one of the most progressive cities in America to harass the people, and it has gradually led to street protests between the extreme right and the extreme left here in the area. But the truth of the matter is that the fact of the matter is that the right wing retards that have been invading our city have come in from out of town as a bunch of outsiders who really have no business here. The truth of the matter is that, they will, if you say these things, they'll tell you that it's a free country and they can go where the fuck they want to go. But we could say the same to them when they tell us that we're not welcome in their communities. It's funny how they tell people like me that we can never travel to their section of, their section of rural America, or they will kill us, basically. And yet the moment we try to tell them that they're not welcome in our cities, it's, fuck you, I go where I want. Why can't you respect the sovereignty of this area and the fact that the people here don't want the right wing assholes here? I don't get it. So our city has been invaded by groups like the street shaking street preachers, despite the fact that they're not welcome here. It's been something that we've had to deal with, and I did want to say, as a message to the street preachers themselves, the health shakers who have been fucking with the city, I would rather burn in hell than worship the thing that you call God. You know, and the truth of the matter is that I side with the amazing atheist in his video, you know, that he put up about why going to hell might not be such a bad idea. You know, certainly eternal torment is still better than worshiping the piece of shit that you call God. I think that your God is a morally degenerate, you know, blight on on morality and of himself, and really has nothing of value to say or contribute to the discussion of what morality actually is, and should just get the fuck out of the debate altogether. God doesn't have, you know, in the Bible have nothing worthwhile to actually contribute to the moral discussion, you know? So just stay the fuck out of it. Now I realize that there are a lot of people that think that I don't have a moral compass because of the fact that I wanted that motherfucker who put that fucking thing together about the helicopter rides to, you know, be doxxed so that we could, you know, so that somebody could basically, you know, threaten his children. But do you really think that it ever actually hurt the children themselves? No. I mean, I don't believe in that, but I do notice that since everybody is so centrally focused on children that, you know, and obsessed with them, that, you know, the truth of the matter of American society is that the one way to get people to maybe rethink the morality of what they're doing is to make them, you know, to make them realize that their children are going to be the ones that suffer the results of their actions. It's just, you know, a very central truth that was pointed out to me by my father, among other parties, that you need to make it clear to these people that, you know, when it comes to the things that you care about, like global warming, that their children are the ones that are going to be impacted by these insane policies that they're putting forward and living in denial of. You know, they're the ones that are going to be impacted by the results of these disastrous social engineering projects that you guys that have created. And you might say that we want to socially engineer too. Well, it's true, you know, but at least our social engineering is scientifically based on the idea of what will actually work and what's been proven to work so far, and smaller at a smaller scale, you know. So, you know, we liberals, we respect empirical evidence and proof of things. You know, we respect science. You know, when science comes to a conclusion, we know that we're not the expert, and so we defer to the experts on, you know, matters that of great importance. And, you know, the truth of the matter is that I am not in any way, you know, like, I this is my town, but I don't live like where the action has been taking place. In this part of town, like in this part of the metro area, things have been quiet. There haven't been as many like issues. If you can hear the noise that's going on, you know, there isn't much interference at all. You know, there's just nothing really taking place. It's been basically boring and uneventful, but, you know, what's been happening to the Portland area has been, you know, fundamentally defined by these people that were never from Oregon and had no real history coming in here and going downtown to, you know, stir up and instigate the far left with their like alt-right protest right there in the middle of downtown. These fights never needed to take place. Most of these people that have been coming in have been provocateurs, like really agent provocateurs that have been trying to egg the left into attacking them so that they can fall over on the ground and cry like real, like they're the victims of the whole thing and everything, when they deliberately aggravated the people into attacking them. You know, it's kind of hard to feel sorry for a group of people that knew that they were kicking a hornet's nest and chose to do it anyways. So you know, that's been what's been going on in the news and for quite some time. I mean, people like Andy, you know, who got milkshaked, like, I mean, for God's sakes, we're such a society that's like so. I mean, and then there were people that the conspiracy theorists that had to make it out like he got hit by a cement milkshake, which was bullshit too. I mean, I don't feel sorry for the guy. I mean, why should I? I mean, you know, he got hit in the face with a drink. Oh no, my life is over. Like, talk about overly dramatizing what happened, and you have this group of people that, have not really, that really should count their lucky stars that things were not out far worse than they turned out to be, trying to come up here and manipulate everybody to grift and to make money off their victimhood status and having been victimized by people that think of themselves as members of the left. And that's what's been going on in to Portland. It's been like the fundamental reality of what's been going on. None of these people that have pushed into the area are from town. They're all out of towners that have come in here, with some semblance of an idea that this is one of the more progressive towns in the area. And then on top of all that, they've decided that, because of that, that they're going to, try to save the people by proselytizing Christianity. I mean, Jesus had to set the example of preaching to the people that wanted that he felt wanted to hear it. But the truth of the matter is that Jesus probably should have done the considerate thing and asked people if they wanted to hear his message before, deciding to be impolite and just spout things at people on a megaphone about religious crap and everything before he started harassing the locals, slut shaming the women, saying a bunch of nasty things about them, pushing sexual shame down everybody's throats, saying that they were whorish and nasty. And I mean, I want to throw up in my mouth even having said that out loud. I hope you know, like I'm not fond of even using the word whorish, but I'm imitating the enemies that I actually have and what they're actually like. These people are the most unwelcome people on the fucking planet, and they don't give a shit about how unwelcome they are. I mean, it couldn't be they couldn't be less welcome, and it's like, I hate it because like I'm in cyberspace, I'm on YouTube, I exist in a place where like I want to be able to share content with people and to emotionally express myself and everything, and to y- you know to unload when things in my life go sideways and to just open up to a crowd of people. And you know despite all that, the audience that I have to deal with is a bunch of like Christians who tell me shit like they'll pray for me, and it's like, please don't. I hear you where you're talking to me about how you'll pray for my salvation and everything, and you know I'm touched, really. But the truth of the matter is that I don't want to find Jesus. The guy that you call God is a very vengeful spirit, from what I can tell and ascertain, who, you know, uh, has people stoned to death for the mere idea of having other gods, doesn't play nice with other deities, lacks the moral compass of a 14-year-old high school student, is even less morally pure than that person, the one that's still in high school. He is vengeful, jealous, and oh too human in what they've put forward. He reminds me a lot of people that I've had personal vendettas against and have been enemies of mine in the real world. He's spiteful, jealous, vindictive, controlling, ill-tempered, petty, and vindictive, and Christians continually engage in a game of special pleading where they try to say that we would condemn a human for this, but God gets a special case where we don't judge him by human standards. We because if it's God, then it had to be moral because God is all benevolent. And it's like, if he were all benevolent, he wouldn't be spiteful, he wouldn't be jealous, he wouldn't be any of those things. So he's not all moral. He is not the source of all moral good. I think that the Bible is a disgusting piece of morally degenerate filth that should be burned in mass and all the digital copies zero filled. It has nothing good or worthwhile or worthy to say about morality and should just exit the moral debate entirely. This is a book that suggests that women should be slaughtered, killed, just for the mere act of infidelity, stoned to death. This book, to stand up here and tell me that it teaches anything worthwhile about morality, disgust me. You people in your moral compass to stand behind this book are very lacking, to say the least. And yet, people will point the finger at me for the things that I've done and tell me that I'm immoral, or the things that I've said. But the truth of the matter is, if I'm an offender against morality, there are people that are far worse out there, and Christians are some of them. Your book is morally degenerate filth. The only comfort I have is in watching the Bible burn. I don't have any interest in ever returning home to Jesus. I don't want to. And the last thing I want is to be proselytized to at all ever again. If I ever mislead you by requesting that I be proselytized to, I am being coerced. Period. End of story. You can be absolutely certain of that beyond any principle of doubt. Don't doubt it at all. There is not even the remotest chance that I will ever bow before the thing that you call God. Christians' primary mistake in this whole thing has been presuming that if they were able to prove God's existence, that I would worship him. See, the first part of that whole problem is that if you proved God existed, that would only be the first problem down. You would also then have to convince me why I should worship a being as sadistic as the God of the Bible, of the desert, of the people of Abraham actually turned out to be. I think I would, if my only options are to burn in hell or worship that vile, disgusting, morally degenerate tin can dictator of a deity that you people worship, I choose hell. Especially because when I think about it, a community ought to be defined by the people that are actually members of that community. Look at who all the people that are going to burn in hell actually are. If you look at it, feminist, adulterers, anybody that's engaged in too much sexual freedom and degeneracy, lesbians, gays, philosophers, atheists, feminists, abortionists, people for the American way, rebellious musicians, musicians, musicians that don't cow the line to God, like Trent Reznor. Trent Reznor is definitely going to be there with us in hell. Along with that girl from the Pretty Reckless, that queen, you know, um, whose name has slipped me for the moment, Taylor Mormonson, the Pretty Reckless, So all these people are the ones that are going to hell, and it's like, if that's what the company is going to be like, Father, don't forgive me, condemn me for before us all, because I would rather burn with them than walk with the sheep that follow you. In heaven, all the interesting people are missing. I find that Nishi's saying is actually true. Shockingly. I mean, do you really want to spend eternity with Jim Baker, with Pat Robinson, with the people behind God's Not Dead? Are those the people? Is that the kind of company that you want to have in the afterlife? Because I gotta tell you, I'd rather burn. All the people that are going to hell are the more interesting segment of humanity. So fuck you and your God. And if you're cringing, fuck you too. I don't care. I don't care how this looks to you fucking people anymore. I don't care. Okay? So if you're gonna type in the comment section some little petty shit like cringing at you, playing Behemoth, I was aiming for you to cringe anyways, Fuck off. I don't want you to approve of me. I want your fucking contempt and disapproval. You people are everything I'd rather die than ever become. So I don't know what else to say about Portland and everything in my city, but this area, no riots. But the truth of the matter is, the city has been invaded by a bunch of carpet bagging pieces of shit that have come into the area to fuck around with it. And I know that I'm a little bit uh, The term carpetbagger, I'm a little bit reluctant to use it because people bullied one of my favorite musicians using the term as a California that a Californian to get away from some of the trauma that they experienced in California came up here. Hi, Art, you know, Alexicus, the lead singer of Everclear. I know that you made Jesus as a Democrat a while back, and I kind of agree with that video, but we got called a bunch of fucking bootlickers for it. Yeah. It's funny too because it's like, who's a bigger bootlicker, the Republican voters or us? It's a joke. The Republicans are a bunch of sheep that lambs to the slaughter for a party that is lying to them, and they gobble up Republican lies like pigs to a trough. They don't ever question anything the Republicans pass down to them. They just uncritically, accept it as if it must necessarily be true because it came out of the mouth of a Republican. So, don't sit up here and preach to me about how I'm a bootlicker when you people won't even question your leaders.